Hi, welcome to the Disability Waiver Rate System quarterly meeting. My name is Erin Haldine, and I am on the fiscal policy team here in the Disability Service Division at DHS. Thank you for joining us. We have just a couple logistics to go through before we start the meeting. Colin, are you able to move through the slides? Perfect, thank you. So just so everyone knows, this meeting is being recorded. All lines are currently muted, and so if you do have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A feature. We do plan to pause throughout the presentation and answer questions as we go along. For those of you who have attended this meeting in the past, it was the DWRS Advisory Committee meetings, and this is a slightly new format, so we might revise or adjust our approach in the future if needed. Next slide. So the presentation is broken up into two different sections. The first is through our fiscal policy team, and we will do an overview of the meeting series as well as provide a background on DWRS. And then we'll transfer it over to our program integrity team, who will provide information on cost reporting, review some case studies from 2022, provide information on where you can get some help and get questions answered if needed, and then provide a sneak peek into 2023 reporting. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Colin Stemper, who is the fiscal policy supervisor. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Erin, and thank you all for joining us today as we try something new with information related to the Disability Waiver Rate System, or DWRS, and some of our cost reporting information. So as we've got a lot of new folks with us today, I thought we'd start out by providing a bit of an overview about what we'll be doing with this meeting and webinar series. And then we'll transition to a little bit of background information about DWRS. So as Erin said, if you have questions as I go through this, put those in the Q&A. And then once I've finished my slides, I'll look back to Erin to see if we have any questions that have come in. So feel free to put some questions in there as we go through. So a little bit of background about why we're here, why we're meeting today, and it all starts back in 2007. So in that year, the Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services informed DHS that our waiver programs that support people with disabilities were out of compliance with federal expectations. And when we are talking about our disability waiver programs, we're specifically talking about 4 programs that Minnesota administers. That's the brain injury, or BI waiver, the community access for disability inclusion, or CADI waiver. We forgot the I on that bullet, so apologies for that. The community alternative care, or CAC waiver, and the developmental disabilities, or DD waiver. And so the reason that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services said we were out of compliance was they said Minnesota did not have a uniform rate determination method and standard. So at that point, the rates for services were negotiated between providers and lead agencies, and the federal government told Minnesota that we needed to implement consistent standards and methods for calculating our rates for services. So ultimately, through a lot of hard work, this led to the creation of the Disability Waiver Rate System, or DWRS. So what DWRS is, and of course we'll go a lot more into this, is it's a series of formulas, or what we'll often call frameworks, that are identified in Minnesota law to set rates based on a person's assessed needs and the provider's costs of rendering those services. So for those of you who aren't intimately involved in this process, to calculate rates, tribal nations and counties, what we sometimes collectively call lead agencies, enter information about a person's supports into an online system that calculates a service rate for that specific person paid to the provider. And over time, this has been done in 3 different systems. when DWRS began in 2013 through 2017, this was done in kind of a standalone system called the Rate Management System, or commonly abbreviated RMS. Between 2017 and today, this has been done in the MinChoices support plan. And as we look to the future this year, this will be done in the revised MinChoices system, or simply called MinChoices. So we've kind of evolved throughout the past decade, but generally the approach has been consistent in calculating rates. So the evolution and implementation of DWRS has been guided by a stakeholder work group for over a decade. So between 2009 and 2013, what started out as being called the Rate Setting Methodologies Initiative Intensive Work Group, and eventually this turned into the DWRS Advisory Committee, reviewed research and provided input to create DWRS actually in law, figuring out what provider costs were of providing services, how we wanted to adjust rates prior to implementation, and how implementation itself would go. Between 2014 and 2019, there was a phased implementation of DWRS known as banding, if you've ever heard that term before. And this period allowed the advisory committee and DHS to continue to evaluate and provider costs, and again, make more adjustments prior to the full use of DWRS as a rate setting tool for these programs. Full implementation, that actually occurred in 2020 and was tracked as by the advisory committee at that time, along with many other things that were occurring that year. And then after full implementation occurred in 2021 to 2022, the advisory committee reviewed findings from cost reporting, some of what we'll be covering a little bit later in the presentation, and analysis that preceded updates to DWRS itself. So that was kind of the last decade plus of the history of this. And in order to share information, receive feedback about DWRS from a broader audience, what we wanted to do is begin this meeting series, what we're calling DWRS quarterly meetings. There's a lot of interest and attention paid to rates as it determines access to services, it's affected and affects the workforce issues that so many services face. So we thought it was good to have a broader conversation with a broader group of people to continue to move this conversation forward. So you're joining us today, and we're hoping to continue to grow this meeting series as time goes on, but you might be asking, what are we going to be doing at these meetings? So it's going to be a few things, and there's a lot that falls under these 3 bullet points, but the first would be reviewing and providing feedback on DHS rate analyses and revised rate processes as they pop up. Learning about changes in law that affect DWRS rates. There's the legislative session is ongoing right now, and we're expecting and hoping to get some revisions coming out of that. And finally, learning about updates to DWRS rates before they are implemented. So kind of identifying what rates will be after those types of updates. In 2023, we're anticipating, as the name of this meeting series implies, having 4 quarterly meetings. The first one is today. And then the remaining 3 are going to happen between 1 to 3 p.m. on 3 Wednesdays throughout the year. So the next one will occur on Wednesday, June 28th. The third one will occur on Wednesday, September 27th. And the final one for the year will occur on December 13th. And of course, like this meeting, we will send e-list reminders before each of these meetings so that you can don't have to keep track of the meetings yourself. So I'm going to do a bit of a quick DWRS overview. For those of you who've been involved with this work over the last decade or so, this is going to be very much a repeat for you. But, we expect there'll be a lot of new folks here today. So I wanted to start with the very basics. And of course, we'll build upon these throughout the meeting series this year. But one of the things that really guides the calculation of rates when it comes to DWRS is data entry done by a county worker or a tribal nation staff member. And this is done once a person's assessment is done and support planning begins. So a person's assessed need for support informs the information that is entered into MinChoices to calculate a rate. And the type of information that may be entered to calculate a rate, and these are just a few examples, individual or shared support hours that the person receives, whether there's some nursing supports by an RN or an LPN that is part of the service, whether the person receives transportation as part of the service, and where a person lives, or what we call county of residence, that may affect the rate. So what is entered about that person's assessed needs and the supports that a person will receive is only part of how that rate calculation occurs. That data is multiplied against different provider costs that are kind of set and static within the rate formulas. And we often call these component values. And these are intended kind of through that last decade of research to reflect the costs that a provider incurs by providing these services. And so some of these include direct care worker and supervisor wages, something called the competitive workforce factor, which is intended to close the gap between direct care worker wages and wages paid for comparable occupations. The costs when the person receiving supports is not present. For instance, documentation the provider has to complete, or travel when the person is not with the direct support professional, insurance and benefit costs the provider has, expenses for the person to participate in community activities, administrative costs borne by the provider, and costs when the person may choose not to receive services, even though when services were planned for a particular date. So together, the data entered by lead agencies and the standard component values produce a person-specific payment rate. And the image we have on the right side of the screen kind of shows an example of one of our services about these component values, which are the white cells, and the yellow cells, which are kind of the pieces of information that are entered by the lead agency staff about a person's specific supports. Now that's probably pretty small on your screen, so if you'd like to review a rate framework yourself, on the DWRS public website, which is linked in that hyperlink right there, there are frameworks going back all the way to 2013. If you'd like to download them and play with them yourself to kind of do some example rates, that's where those are located. So I'm not going to read through all of these, but generally these are the service types that use DWRS rate frameworks. And sometimes we talk about service buckets for different types of services. So the buckets that we talk about are day services, and these can include services like day support services or adult day. There are unit-based services, which tend to support people in their own home or the community and are provided in 15-minute units. Typically, these are things like employment services or individualized home supports. And then finally, there are residential services, the final bucket, which tends to include residential services that are delivered in a provider-controlled residential setting. So you'll find that the framework webpage that I previously mentioned and linked to on the previous slide kind of organizes the frameworks by this way too, but wanted to give you an idea of the services that we are talking about today. So when it comes to updating rates, like I mentioned, the DWRS formulas are identified in state law, and those also include some automatic rate updates that are based on an analysis of state and federal wage and inflation data. And you know, these are some things that the legislature is talking about currently. So what I'm going to say here reflects current law, although that could change based on laws that get passed this session. So in terms of the wage component and inflation updates, so changes to the direct care wage portion of the DWRS frameworks, currently those are scheduled to be updated November of 2024, July of 2026, and every 2 years after that. There's a regional variance factor, which we'll definitely talk about more in the future. And I apologize, we got this wrong on the slide. The next update to that is July of 2028, and then every 6 years after that date. And there's a lot of analysis of that state and federal data that goes into what these rates and what these values ultimately end up being. So these are the types of analyses that we'll review in this meeting before the changes are made to the rates. So in terms of other rate changes, because these frameworks are written into law, the legislature, like I've mentioned, can choose to make changes to the individual component values or rates or the schedule which rates are updated. Many of these changes, when they occur, require updates to each program's waiver plan, which must be approved by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS, before they can be implemented. So even prior to when we do the analysis to inform these types of rate updates, we'll let you know in this meeting when updates have been made by the legislature to DWRS laws. And finally, because it's oftentimes a focal point for conversations around rates, there is a process which we'll again talk about more in future meetings called rate exceptions. And these are cases where a person may have such extraordinary needs that a provider may not be able to support them with the rate generated by a DWRS framework. So a rate exception, according to the law that authorizes them, requires a person to have extraordinary needs and the provider to incur extraordinary costs to support that person. And this might include things like specialized staff or staff that require additional training on how best to support the person. So the intent of the rate exception is to cover those additional extraordinary costs faced by the provider. And while we wish this was possible, a desire to increase direct care professional wages is not a reason for a rate exception, because it's not really related to a person's assessed need. Ultimately, as we were talking about in a previous slide, it's up to the Minnesota legislature to decide how much money they want to spend on funding these rates. And ultimately, a goal of increasing wages has to come from them. And so finally, as a little bit of context for the folks that we're talking about when it comes to rate exceptions, previous analyses have shown that about 7% of people have a rate exception. So it's a relatively small, but also very important process to support the people who have very extraordinary needs in the system. So that is a very, very brief overview of DWRS. And we will definitely be diving deeper into these topics in future meetings, but we wanted to provide a bit of context for the second half of this meeting that will be covered by the program integrity team. But before I jump over there, I guess I'm going to ask Erin, do we have any questions in the Q&A?
We do not have any questions yet, but I will keep an eye on it and let you know if some come through. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think actually I saw one just pop in. It says, can you clarify if people who are living together in the same CRS program should have an equal number of shared hours? Since shared hours are divided by the license capacity of the CRS, it would seem that case managers need to be approving an equal amount of shared hours. That is a graduate level DWRS question. And I think, let's see, Jan, are you able to unmute and provide some thoughts about that one?
Hi, Colin. We can't see that question.
Oh,
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
yeah, no, that's no problem. And maybe it was just sent to me, so apologies for that. So it says, can you clarify if people who are living together in the same CRS program should have an equal number of shared hours? Since shared hours are divided by the license capacity of the CRS, it would seem case managers need to be approving an equal amount of shared hours.
That does depend on the needs of the person, but generally shared does mean shared. And you know, that's how the 6790 is designed. That's how the MnChoice's framework is designed, that those are the hours that they are sharing together. So there definitely would be cases where everyone in the house would have the same number of hours. And there are also additional worksheets that account for people that are normally not home during the day. And that have extra staff brought in. So there are business rules that address that scenario with additional documentation.
Great.
And if that, whoever's sent that question, if you have a very specific example that you need assistance with, you can send that to the dsd.rates address and we can help you.
Perfect. Thank you. Aaron, before we move on, any other questions that have come in?
No questions, but there's been some comments that I can review in regards to Jan's answer. So one says, we have always believed that the answer is no. Some may be home during the day and they would share a larger portion of the cost of the staff during the day.
Yep, and that's what I meant about those supplemental worksheets that are available that allow you the provider to add a calculation in for people that are regularly home or regularly not home, when some but not all people are gone during the day. That's what the purpose of those worksheets.
Thank you. And the next comment is, the equal number of hours may be the same, but if some people work away from the home and some stay home, then the hours would be different.
Yep. And again, you're sharing that, you know, then you're not sharing. They would be subtracted. Yep.
Perfect. Well, you know what I think that shows is there's going to be potentially a need to review kind of how some shared staffing works at a future meeting we have here. So we'll add that to the list of potentially helpful topics to cover in a few in upcoming meetings. And I think we have a few more questions that came in. I think there was one who said, who is all involved in the MnChoice's assessment? You know, the assessment is a bit removed from the rate calculation piece that we're talking about here today. Do anyone else have some thoughts about that? Otherwise, you may want to follow up by submitting an inquiry to the DSD Response Center to get an answer to that question.
And then there is one more question. Do you think the exception process will go away?
Well, you know, I don't like to speculate about what the legislature will choose to do. Ultimately, that would be a choice that the legislature would have to make along with elected officials. So, of course, if that were ever to happen, we would talk about it at this meeting and provide folks quite a bit of a heads up. All right, I think that is all the questions we have right now. Of course, you can keep asking them in the Q&A, but I think at this point, I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues in the program integrity team.
Thanks, Colin. Appreciate it. Hi, everybody. I hope my audio is working good. I'm going to try and talk loudly. I'll be using my phone today. I've had issues with WebEx in the past, so please put something in the Q&A if you can't hear me. And if continued audio troubles happen, I can switch it over. My colleague has done this presentation numerous times too. So my name is Peter Barwaltis. I'm on the program integrity team. I do a lot of policy analysis and work with providers on the cost reporting system. I am going to talk about, give a little background on the why and what of what cost reporting is and the why of cost reporting. And then my colleague Dylan is going to talk about some of the data analysis we've gotten from cost reporting already, give a few case studies, and then I'll kind of wrap up things of where we are now, what resources are there, and things to come. So why don't we get started? So just general feedback, if you have anything that, if you don't have a question today, but think of one later or something in the future, our email is right there. If not, I think you're getting this presentation afterwards, but if not, we do have a website up that also has our email there as well. We are a small team, so I would ask that we, especially as cost reporting is starting soon for year 3, you give us at least 3 business days to respond. We are a small team, and in a current year, we have 600 providers that will be reporting. So just please give us time to respond before sending in multiple questions to the cost reporting email. Next slide. Oh, and I should mention too, I'm just a little clarity. I'm in a wheelchair, so if you see me moving around a lot, it's just because I'm uncomfortable sitting down all the time. So, and my notes are over here, so if I'm looking elsewhere, it's not because I don't like all of you, it's just because my notes are on another screen here. So just to give a little context. For background here, this all started in 2017 when the legislature asked DHS to implement and develop a cost review system for any provider that used DWRS. Now, I won't get much into DWRS. Obviously, Colin covered that in the first 20 slides, so I don't need to give too much background on that. But essentially, DWRS providers have and will put in their information into a cost reporting system, and then we make evidence-based recommendations to the legislatures and policymakers about payment rates for disability waiver services. I'm not going to try and read too much off the slides here, but I did think this last sentence here was a great way to emphasize what I just said in kind of a different way. So DHS collects this data on an ongoing basis to inform policymakers of the cost drivers and allow DWRS to set rates that appropriately fund services, encourage provider viability, and ensure services or service access for people who receive these services under home and community-based services disability waivers. And that's kind of some of the backgrounds on that. We do have a report on our findings after year 1, but I'll talk more about that in the resources too. I can go to the next slide. So the why and what of cost reporting, I'll start with the why actually, and you can just go ahead and get to the next slide here. So why cost reporting now? Well, as DWRS moved off of banding, and a lot of you know, who have been here a while, know what banding is. The system continued to need ongoing analysis to support rates that reflect service costs. Our rates and our rate frameworks have a lot of assumptions built into them. They were based off of data and ongoing analysis, but what we really want these to be based off of the costs that providers have. And you all providing services, you know what the costs are, and hopefully have those recorded. We then will be collecting that information through our cost report and can feed that back into our assumptions. And this helps us make sure that we are all aligning over time. Now, if you'll look at the screenshot on the left side here, you can see it looks like it's something I pulled from earlier in the presentation. This is the framework that we pulled from our Excel tool, and I think you can also find this on the DWRS website too, or homepage too. I circled two areas here. One is supervision percentage, and then the other is percentage of direct care to cover staffing benefits. Now, these two, both of these are assumptions based off of national and state level data, but what we really may find in collecting costs over time from providers is that those percentages are actually different from the data we collect and are providing, and from the, from what you are actually providing in those services. So that's kind of what cost reporting is doing, is giving us or letting us take data and then make informed decisions about what those actual costs are from what all of you send us. So why now? Kind of why are we doing it this few years? Well, it was supposed to launch in 2020, and instead, because of COVID, we had to launch in 2021. So we have costs from 2 years now, and we are on year 3. Is going to actually start at the end of this week. So next slide, please. What is cost reporting? Well, I kind of went over these 2 bullets already, and I mentioned the first one on the last slide, or the second one on my last slide, but I will say that some of the examples of the costs that we are collecting are wages, facility costs, vehicle costs, administrative costs, things like that. And I have a list on the next slide that I'll go over for that too. This reporting is only going to include DWRS costs. So if you have, we do allow you to report things that span across multiple programs. So for example, if you have direct care support staff is getting paid from 2 different programs, the cost report actually gives you a way to allocate those costs out and separate them. So if you can't separate what somebody gets paid in the cost report itself, it gives you a way to kind of separate those costs. And then the last bullet I read here, let me see. There are 2 different ways. I'm sorry, I lost my pen. So there are multiple ways. I kind of said this one already, but I think the important thing to take away from here is that DHS is not going to set the rates based off of the cost reports that we get. Again, these are all data we're going to collect, and then we are going to give recommendations based off of our data analysis to the legislature itself. So next slide. So as I mentioned, here's a list of kind of the narrower focus on things that we will be collecting in the cost report itself. One of the things is administrative and direct care wages. We look at benefits and payroll taxes too. These are including payments to license holders and family providers as well. And then service facility costs, those include, building and maintenance costs. This does not include something like a residential home. Those costs are underneath GRH and is not a DWRS cost. So please don't put your home mortgage into the cost report. And then transportation costs, program and non-related. So things we look at that are cost of the vehicle, the mileage, how many people are going into one vehicle itself. Program administrative costs we're also collecting. Those are things like supplies and access to community services that all go into a program set cost. And then the last, one of the last more focused ones is general administrative costs. So those are things like software, technology, your licensing fees, office supplies, and program oversight. There's a lot of them, but those are just a few examples of things we will be collecting. And again, I know I mentioned this on the last slide too, but we are only looking for DWRS costs. Now, like I said, there is a way to separate that out. You can allocate something. So if supplies or software is being paid for a different program too, there is a way you can separate those costs out in the cost reports. Next slide. All right, what is not going to be reported? This is not an effort to collect only your direct costs and to change your rate. This is an aggregate reporting. So every year we have about 600 providers. I think this year we do have 600 providers on the dot that will be reporting this year. So we're not singling you out. So if you are scheduled to report this year, it's not just you. You're also going to have 600 other people that will be doing it because we're trying to get aggregate costs for everyone. This is not going to be automatically changing your rate. And any changes to frameworks or the rate will be done by the legislature. As I mentioned before, DHS is only going to collect the data and then make recommendations on it. We will not be changing your rate based off of your cost report. So, and then lastly, an audit of one's, sorry, 1 second. This is not going to be an audit of one's business or home. So we do have an auditing component to this, but that is only to make sure that that you are actually filling out the cost report correctly. It's not to audit your business in general. If you are selected to be audited after doing cost reporting, that is only to make sure you are filling out the cost report correctly. Obviously, if we didn't have an audit component to this, people could just make up stuff and throw it in the cost report and go from there. So that I thought the auditing report part of this is very essential. Next slide, please. And then next, we're going to talk about cost reporting findings. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Dylan, who's going to talk about data and then also case studies we find. And then I will be back later to talk about a few other things.
Thank you very much, Peter. So good afternoon, everyone. Hello, my name is Dylan Adams. I work on the program integrity team with Peter and Megan, who is also on this call. If I look familiar, that is good. I used to work for Colin until our team split apart. Today, I'm going to go over some of our most recent cost reporting findings and also dive into 3 distinct case studies. Colin, can you go to the next slide, please? And I will take questions at the end, by the way. So let's dive on into some of the findings. Before really going into the specific findings, I'd like to kind of give a little bit of background on the data collection and some of the caveats within our data that we've found. So let's talk about data collection first and foremost. And Peter did cover some of this topic already. So first and foremost, on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a schedule. That is the schedule that we have every year in which providers will report. And as Peter mentioned, we have about 20% of our total provider population reporting every year. We estimate it to be about just under 3,000 or so providers. So roughly 600 or so providers is what we would expect to report each year, though we did a slightly lower number than that for our very first year just to kind of get acclimated to everything. This most recent sample was 600 providers. We actually, that number actually went down because some providers had closed or stopped providing DWRS services. As of yesterday, we had exactly 600 providers slated to report this upcoming year, and they will be contacted at the end of this month. So we are looking forward to getting started for the next year. And then I think the most important thing to really kind of glean from the data collection, it's something that's not quite intuitive, but if you are reporting in 2023, say, all of your data is going to be coming in from, most likely, you'll be reporting on 2022 data. Most providers report their most recently available calendar year's worth of information. So keep that in mind when I'm showing you some of these numbers. I will be referencing 2021 cost reporting data, which means some of that information came from 2020. And then last year's data, so the people who reported in 2022, for the most part, they're reporting their costs from calendar year 2021. And I will try to make sure to call that out to avoid any confusion going forward. Can you go to the next slide, please? So there are a lot of limitations to our data. This is the cost reporting program. We've only had 2 years worth of submissions so far, and we are actively working on improving the program after each cycle. So we discovered in our first year that we needed to put in some more guardrails in our system, because sometimes, you know, for example, a provider would put in the average number of hours per week that a worker might have worked, 40. And the question that we were asking them was to report like the total number of hours a worker worked for the entire year. So there was a lot of kind of, there were fewer guardrails in place in the first year. And each year we put in more and more to kind of capture correct information and avoid kind of errors within the data. So I do want to call out that, you know, some of the information that we received was maybe not realistic. And we've done a great job as a team to remove outliers, to clean up the data, and to make sure that we're actually analyzing the right information. And where there are caveats in the data in the subsequent slides, I will again be sure to call those out. Next slide, please. So let's dive on into some of the heavy hitters of what we kind of discovered within cost reporting. So first and foremost, let's talk about direct care wages. In 2021 cost reporting, so that's mostly looking at wage data, or excuse me, cost data from 2020. The median wages that we had were perhaps closer to $14 or $15. And this year we saw a slightly bigger uptick in the median wages paid to direct care staff. We're now seeing more of that cross into the $16 threshold. You'll see there that, though, that day workers tend to be paid around $15-18 per hour. Some caveats about all of this data is that we had the most trouble with responses coming in through wages. I did kind of give a sneak peek that many providers, or a lot of providers, put in you know, the number of hours for like an average week for a worker, or maybe they put in like a worker's like hourly rate and not actually how much money was paid to that person over a year. So there were some holes in the data, and after cleaning out those ones that were not realistic or non-normal values, we were left with the median wage of, you know, what you see in front of you. So it's important to note that these numbers may not be exactly quite right, but they are in the general ballpark of what we expect. I will also quickly shout out that the licensed workers had a median wage of $29.11 per hour. So those would be our registered nurses and our licensed practical nurses. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's dive on into direct care benefits. So I will call out the caveat here that what you're looking at now is 2021 reporting. So more than likely, most of this information is coming from 2020. We did not look at direct care benefits from the 2022 cost reporting sample. So we are pulling these from the first year of submissions. And what we found is that we would have assumed a lot more spending in benefits than what we actually saw. So direct care benefits were about 6.5% of total wages paid in 2021, and that actually went down in 2022. You know, the overall framework, our assumption is that about 12% of these costs would kind of be more towards benefits. And what we are seeing is that that's just not happening. And in 2021, the breakdown that you're seeing on the right side of the screen here, we're seeing that no majority of providers are giving any of the following benefit types that we would expect: health insurance, dental insurance, retirement benefits, et cetera. So in the overall industry, we're seeing pretty low kind of participation rates in producing benefits, even though our frameworks are making the assumption that companies are providing those benefits to workers. Next slide, please. Another hot topic is administrative wages, and we did a deep dive into that as well. So we are looking currently at wages for administrative staff. There's another kind of caveat with the data here, which is that we did find a good number of provider firms who paid their administrative staff to do some direct care staff. So that is something that we are noticing and tracking, is that some admin staff are doing direct care tasks for people receiving services. And that could be related to the overall workforce shortage. It's something that we are kind of keeping an eye on. So we tried to call that out on the left-hand side of the screen, that first bullet point. About 3.2% of total spending on DWRS services was in fact admin staff doing direct care. On the right-hand side of the screen, we did a breakdown, and again, this is 2021 reporting, so more than likely 2020 data per full-time equivalent. So what we would assume to be one full-time staff person. So this is like their yearly salary that we would expect. We saw the wages there for the following for all those position types. And then on the left-hand side of the screen, we did a specific call out for executives. Those the median salary for those folks was about $83,000. We didn't, I think, calculate that out for 2022 data, but I assume it's probably comparable. Just kind of diving into my notes here, we did note that a good number of providers paid their executive staff over six figures. This was a little bit more prevalent in for-profit companies compared to nonprofits. We can certainly do deeper dives into administrative wages another time, but it's certainly something to call out that we do tend to see higher wages at the kind of top end of the company hierarchy. And just for a reference here, in the bottom left-hand side of the screen, we call out how much a direct care staff person would be making on average if their hourly wage was about $16 an hour. So they would be making around $33,000 per year compared to an executive making on average, or excuse me, on median, $83,000 per year. Could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you, and I do appreciate these stock images, Colin. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so I told you that I would go over some high-level findings from cost reporting, and now I will dive more into some case studies. So these are 3 different providers who do different services. Each provider is located in a different part of the state. We try to kind of get a little bit of geographic difference, some service difference, and then also there's, I believe, 1 nonprofit and 2 for-profit. So we try to kind of get, you know, a different set of examples to show you. Let's see if I have any other things to note here. We are not identifying these providers to respect their business privacy. The specific numbers that I will give out are approximations, and then most of the other numbers are in percentages, again, to not provide anything that could be identifiable to these providers. But I think you'll get a sense of what their costs are like. Can you go to the next slide, please, Colin? Thank you. So let's talk about our first case study. The first case study is a for-profit provider in Duluth in northern Minnesota. All of these providers reported in 2022, so more than likely their data is from 2021. This particular provider had about $3 million in DWRS revenue, the vast majority of which was in residential services, and then they served about 30 people there. Can you go to the next slide? All right, so here's the fun information that we have for this particular provider. Firstly, let's call out that they are paying their workers on average about $13.61 an hour. So if you remember from previously, the median residential direct care wage across the 2022 sample was $16.50 an hour. So they're paying less than what was reported within that particular sample. And just so you know, $13.61 is less than $13.61 per hour is less than what we would expect in our frameworks. So they are paying their workers less than what we expect. And that can be called out there. If you look at the table on the kind of right-hand side of the screen where it says direct care staffing, we can see that they are spending about 48.9% of their costs on direct care staffing when we would assume much more like 60.5. And then let's call it the next big number on the screen. This particular provider has a very healthy profit margin, about 27% of the total amount of revenue that they're getting is going towards profits. So this is a firm that is doing very well. They are underspending in most of the other areas. Let me confirm that, just looking over this quickly. They're underspending in benefits, which we'd expect a little bit unusual, but they're underspending in administrative costs. That's at the bottom there, program-related expenses. It's actually a little bit unusual. Most of the providers that I've particularly looked at tend to actually overspend on admin costs. In the other case studies, I'll call those out as well. But the final thing I'd really like to call out here is that this particular provider did not report many costs related to client and programming supports, only 0.1% of their overall revenue and costs here. We would assume that would be closer to 3.2%. So lots of underspending here, but a very healthy profit margin for them. Yeah, I'm not going to dive further into that, but I'll let you interpret that how you will. Can you go to case study number 2? So in the second case study, I will warn you that this provider claims to have a loss. They are 82% of their revenues come from day services, 18 from unit-based. They're located in central Minnesota. This is a nonprofit. And I called out the specific kinds of amounts. They reported just under $2 million of revenue, but costs over $2.5 million. And they serve about 235 people. Next slide, please. So here, I'm going to pause and call out the 2 different tables that you see here. The first one is looking at the provider's spending on day services. And then the next table, the one that's green, is looking at the breakdown of spending related to unit-based services. And those have different framework assumptions, so that's why they were separated there. And I'll talk about them more in just one moment. Before I do, I would like to call out that the provider's average direct care wage was about $14.68 per hour, which is, I think, about right for what the frameworks assume. It might even be slightly higher than the framework assumption. But it's less than what the sample had overall. The sample had a median day wage of $15.18 per hour. So this firm is paying about framework So again, because this provider reported operating losses, you'll see the profit numbers there, both negative. However, at the same time, I think it's really important to call out the line in both tables labeled program-related expenses. So those program-related expenses are typically administrative costs, the bulk of which goes to administrative staff, like your executives, your IT support, all of those types of workers that I showed you a while back. So here that we see them way overspending what we would assume to the tune of like 38.9% roughly for, I think actually both tables here, 38.9% of their revenues are going towards administrative staff for both of these particular areas. So we are seeing definite overspending in the administrative side. A lot of underspending in direct care staff, direct care staffing, with both of those being nearly, well, one of them is about 5 percentage points less than what we'd expect. The other one was about 10 percentage points, or roughly 9. Yeah, lots of underspending there. I will also say, in fairness, that they report higher costs than expected for their day program facility in the day table. And they also spent more on transportation in the unit-based section than what we would expect. Though they allocated their costs towards transportation, and I don't think transportation is actually supposed to be a part of unit-based costs. So lots of things that we can look at when it comes to these providers, but as I hope you are kind of getting the impression, there are lots of different ways to analyze provider spending and costs from our cost reporting data. And a lot of this is coming through in the analysis that we're doing now. Can you go to the final case study, please, Colin? Okay, the final case study is a provider, a for-profit provider in southern Minnesota in Rochester. This particular provider did mostly residential services, and they too served about 235 people. Next slide. Okay, and so again, we have a table on the right showing kind of the breakdown of what this firm spent versus what we would assume by the framework. And then on the left hand side, we have that that little can't speak today, that little box there with the direct care wage on average versus the sample. So on average, this particular provider spent about $12.97 per hour on direct care wages. Again, in the back of your mind, you should be thinking like around $14.60 an hour, I think, is about what we'd expect for the framework values. The overall sample residential wages had about a median of $16.50. So this provider is underspending in a few ways for direct care staffing, and that is reflected in the direct care staffing percentage on that table. We would expect to be 60.5 or so, and they're spending about 53.7. They have a lower profit margin than the first case study, or actually both the other case studies, because the second one was negative. But it's still a profit margin of about 5.5%. The other key call out here is, like many of these providers, this particular one overspent on program related expenses, which again, you can think of as administrative costs. And yeah, again and again, we're seeing providers overspending in these areas, but underspending in direct care staffing and also employee related benefits, employee related expenses. Those are benefits for employees. And again, this particular provider is also underspending in the other categories associated with residential services, transportation, and client programming supports. And you can interpret that what you will. So with that, I've concluded kind of diving into these particular case studies. I hope that you have a sense of what kind of information we have and what kind of analysis we can do on these. And I would also then circle back to Peter's original point, which is that we're not looking at these data to punish providers or wag our fingers or anything. We are just reporting out our findings to the legislature, and they can choose to alter rates if they want. We're just providing data. So with that, Next slide, please, Colin. I'm going to hand this off to, well, actually, before I hand this off to Peter, I see a ton of questions came in. Megan, do you have any questions that you want me to ask or answer?
Sure, I can go through a few here, and these have been a little bit more general with cost reporting, so I'll just hit a couple of them now, and then we can circle back on some of them later. Though I will draw everyone's attention, if you do not have the Q&A function open, there has been some answers as well, so those will pop up, and you can see those as if you're looking for some answers. Just to go back a little ways, we have a question about looking at 2021 and 2022 cost reporting data. Does it appear the data is being consistently provided? Dylan, do you want to speak to that at all?
Depends on the service, depends on a lot of things, to be perfectly honest. You know, we are not in the auditing business. So like, I can't really tell you about the level of quality of service provided to people. There are also a number of other studies and ways of kind of getting at the quality of data. I will say that there's a long-term desire at DHS to really dive more into the quality of data that, the quality of services that people are providing. However, we don't have great data on all of those just yet. But some services, we can kind of calculate that a little bit better than others. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. There is a question about calculating benefit costs. So I'm going to read this out. When determining benefit costs, did you use the aggregate of part-time and full-time as normal situations wouldn't provide a majority of those benefits to part-time staff? So you want to talk about a little bit how you did the benefit costs assumptions?
Sure. So these benefits are what most providers will do when they're reporting their costs is they will lump most of their direct care staff into kind of like one line in the system. And as part of that, they will like report total money spent on employee staff. And that's broken out also by like regular hours versus overtime hours versus sick time, vacation time, etc. And so what we are able to do is we are able to look at when providers report all this information, we can break down the regular hours and money spent for regular wages to kind of calculate an average wage. When it comes to benefits, folks report those too. I will say we've had some issues with some providers just straight up not reporting benefits. That was particularly the case in 2021, and it went down a lot in 2022 because we made a point of really training on it. In terms of your question though, full-time versus part-time, we are able to kind of glean from this like roughly what we would expect for those. However, I mean, the overall frameworks just kind of assume a certain percentage that a firm should be paying. And at the end of the day, a lot of firms just don't pay that amount or don't have that cost in their reflected in their data.
Thank you. And I think I'm going to address a couple of questions that we have that have been coming in, and then we can move on and we can circle back with some additional more specific questions. We'll get to Peter's section here next. I do have a question about the assumption of 0% profit. I also have a comment about the use of the words overspending and underspending. I want to clarify, and I think, you know, we've laid it out previously, or if you've been to a cost reporting presentation before, we've also talked about it. Our role here with analysis is really looking at a comparison overall to the framework values. So going back to the beginning of our presentation and what Colin provided, we're looking at how spending compares to those framework assumptions and where we may be having assumptions that are different. So when we're talking about the words overspending or underspending, that is in comparison to the percentage that we're looking at. So if we see something where we would assume that percentage is 14% and now it is 25%, we would say that's an overspend. It does not mean that the choices being made by each individual providers are incorrect for their business. And that's what one of the things that makes cost reporting so challenging to administer. And I think a lot of you probably heard me say it before, but we have about 3,000 providers in the DWRS universe. That means there's about 3,000 different ways to manage these funds. So want to call that out and make sure that that's clear. As to the 0% profit, again, that's just aligning with the assumptions that we have for the rates as well as the requirements of Medicaid rate structure. So I don't want to get us too far into the weeds on that, but business decisions do differ from the assumptions, and our role is to compare them to the assumptions. So we will see those differences and continue even if we had a perfect system. So I'm going to go back on mute and we'll address some questions when Peter is all finished up and open up the space a little bit more. So go take it away, Peter.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you, Dylan. I appreciate it. I am going to talk about kind of the resources and kind of next steps to cost reporting and where we are too. So if you want to go ahead and do the next slide, Colin. So our website, I know there was a question I tried to answer in the chat, is essentially up to date too. I know there's some things that say that the cost reporting started in 2021. They were talking about as a whole, cost reporting started in 2021. That's why those 2021 dates are on the website there. This is the other things you can find here, and the link is in the presentation too. I think it's on the next slide. So you will have a link to the cost reporting website here. But another thing we have are our live trainings and then the news and updates. The news and updates don't really get updated too much because there's not an update besides the fact that cost reporting will be starting soon in the next year. I do have, there was also a question about trainings and the cost report, about cost reporting too, and why they're not there earlier. If you go to the resources tab, there are trainings we have done in the past there too with demonstrations. We will be, since we had some system updates, we will be doing trainings again this summer to reflect what those system updates are. I'll be talking about that in a little bit. One is that you will be able to use one username to complete the entire report. We had a security issue in the beginning when we started all this, and we had something where users, especially smaller providers, would have to put in 2 usernames to complete the report. That was a headache for everyone. We have changed that, so providers going forward will only have to use one username, and hopefully we'll fix a lot of our login issues with the system itself. There are a lot of other helpful resources to help with the report. You can see the screenshot on the right side. There's a tab that says resources. You can go in there and find a number of different things. I think one of them would be there's an FAQ. There's also a spreadsheet of the entire cost report itself. So before you do like the online system, you can go in and use the Excel tool to fill out all of your costs. There is also other sheets to help you track your costs. So if you haven't been doing that already, we do have resources there as well to help with that. And then there are other links that are relevant. I think there's 1 or 2 that need to be updated, but those will all, especially as we have picked up new staff recently, to help with everything will be updated. And I promise things are relatively update on the website itself, the manual, and the system. The system especially, we prioritize that to make sure everything is relevant before cost reporting starts. So why don't we go to the next slide? The cost reporting manual. So this is, as you're doing the report itself, we do have on each page is a corresponding manual page. So if you need a little more guidance into how to complete one of this or more detailed guidance, you can click on the manual page on each page of the reporting system itself will direct you there. Now, what we found, especially after year 1, is that some of the smaller providers or family providers don't fill out every page of this very comprehensive report. So we also created a guide to help the smaller family providers walk through the report itself. And we even have screenshots on there to help show you how to log in, which pages you will probably be doing, which pages you will have to do, and stuff like that. And as I mentioned, we have changed it so that you will only have to use one username in the future. So that stuff is being updated in the manual, but has been updated on the cost report system itself. And then what was the last thing here? You will find links to both the website and the manual are interchangeably to each other as you go through the report. A lot of different resources to help in the manual itself. I strongly recommend that you look at it. Just brief initially, even if it's just the home page before starting the report itself. Why don't we go to next page? And these are resources linked. I mentioned in the beginning that there is a legislative report out for year 1 of reporting. That is the last link here. And then the other ones are to the manual and the website. So you all, I saw in the chat, I mentioned before, I didn't know if the presentation was going out to all of you, but it seems like it already went out initially. So next slide, please. I mentioned this on the first slide. We do have an email address, so if you have further future questions that you want to ask, or if for whatever reason we didn't get to your question on the Q&A here and you want to send it in again, our email is right there. Like I mentioned, we are a small team, so please do give us a time if we don't respond in a day or two, but also a reason that we ask, and I think I'll get to this on another slide, that you don't start your report at the last possible minute. Those questions, even then at the end of reporting, I think we're a lot better about that, and especially with our new staff that will be coming in, I think we'll be a lot better about moving that time frame up on when we answer your questions. But just one more reason not to start the report at the last minute. And then we, as I mentioned too, I'm redundant here, but we have over 600 providers that are doing a report each year, and we are a small team doing the best we can here. And we do get your feedback, and I do try to update the manual website, everything as that comes in too, which is what we have done with the username update here for the report, for reporting this year. Next slide. I think I even get to that on one of these slides too. So sneak peek for 2023. This is a big week, March 31st. Those of you that are selected to report this year will get an email. You'll also get an email through your minutes mailbox. Will not probably come on the 31st, but the week after, just to let you know that you will be reporting. There was a question in the chat about when will I know I'm ready to report. There was on your, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but your 245B license, you provided an email and authorized agent. Your authorized agent will get an email, a couple emails with login information and general information about reporting for this year. And as mentioned there in that small comment too, I'll try to stop being redundant, but you'll get one in your minutes mailbox next week as well if you are. If you're not sure after all of that, you still think you might be reporting for whatever reason, it's totally okay to send it to the cost report. But I haven't had too many of those, and you should be getting an email if you are due to report this year. Authorized agents will be able to start, complete, and submit the report with one account. Yes, as I mentioned before, this is kind of a big deal. A lot of the questions we got were just on general login issues. And this comes with the confusion of having to do 2 usernames in the past. You will not have to do that this year if selected to report. There was a lot of confusion with it, especially if you're only a provider of one, of why do I have to do 2 usernames? So This is kind of a huge deal, and hopefully we'll get less questions about logging in and doing the report itself. And then new trainings and system demonstrations will be done this summer. I think I saw a question about that in the chat as well. And next year, I'll definitely take that into advisement of doing it before the June 1st deadline. I will say that the trainings on the website right now are all relevant except for the username issues I just talked about in that second bullet. Everything else that we do with a demonstration and kind of what and why of cost reporting and data information, relevant trainings on the website right now ready to go. And those will, like I said, those will be updated just this summer too. We'll update them as well. And I think we'll do that every year as needed. Next slide. Colin, I know we probably have questions. I think I saw a few coming in while I was talking, but that's kind of our presentation on cost reporting. Megan, Dylan, any questions you want to answer that I didn't see?
I mean, I can start and go through those, but before we get there, Colin, I don't know what your expectation is, so.
Yeah, why don't you handle questions, because I'll just wrap things up here at the end, and that'll be pretty quick. So why don't you go ahead?
Sure. I'm going to double back here and get some of our earlier questions. You guys have been downright prolific, so congratulations. First question I've got to cover is, are you using the salary data to do market analysis comparison of wages in comparable fields? Whether or not you are actually, we'll go with that word, referring to the competitive workforce factor. At this time, cost reporting data is not part of that calculation. We use BLS, or Bureau of Labor Statistics, data specific to Minnesota and do a comparable analysis. There should be coming out in coming weeks a competitive workforce factor update report. That's a legislative report, and it should be on the legislative reports website, and that will have the entire analysis broken down. However, as we do informal analyses and get requests, we can look at that. However, at the end of the day, you know, it's just two data sources that are collecting nearly similar information. One's just coming from DEED and the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I'm gonna scroll here. I see another question. I'm gonna read this one out. We're needing to supplement our DSPs using expensive temp staff services, sometimes $37 an hour, due to workforce shortages. Where do these costs fall into cost reporting? Direct support professionals, whether they're contract, temporary, or employees, are reported on the direct care and direct support pages. So if you have temporary staff under contract, you could report them as a contractor and report all of the wages that are being paid directly to them, and that will be included in overall aggregated DSP or direct care costs. So that's something that, because of the way this is structured, whether it is temporary, contracted staff, or employee staff, all of that will be collected in the same manner. There is a question in here that says, when completing DWRS, does DHS provide each provider with a breakdown of percentages, et cetera, as shown in the case studies? This is not something that we have done to date. We can take it back and think about it more, though our statute does limit us to releasing data in aggregate form. So maybe we could look at showing you how we do that analysis, but I would say your cost report summary page is really important to how you would do that, right? Because it's calculating out your total dollar spending based on all of the allocations you've done throughout your cost report. I'm going to scroll here, but Dylan or Peter, if you found a question to answer, please let me know.
Yeah, is the most current workbook manual online for this year from Linda Fairchild? I think it is, but I'll defer to Peter especially.
Yeah, it should be. And I mentioned that too. I tried the workbook yesterday with our developer for me, and it worked. So if you're having individual issues with the workbook, please send that into our cost reporting email. We'll work individually with you on that. Just make sure it's not an individual error as opposed to a widespread error overall. So.
And I'll add, the manual is a living, breathing document. So if you are on the manual website, you know, I know we had a question about something wasn't updated since July of 2022. They may not be updated regularly unless something has changed. But that is the current up-to-date website whenever we do have changes. So like Peter had said, those will be updated as we go and launch on Friday. Just looking here and reading through some of our questions.
I did notice that a couple people have said that they can't get the Excel workbook to download from the site. That's odd. I just downloaded it myself, so it might be the case that like it's browser dependent. So I'll take a look at it if you send me any emails about the errors. I'll take a look into those and then circle back with Minute or our technical team to see what's up.
So there is a question here, and I'll address it, and I'll read it out. It says, seems like more of the data entries are not correct. And how is that taken into account when this then goes to the legislature as how rates should be done? Seems that if the data is not as correct as it should be, why is the system not working to make the next year data more accurate? So as we've talked about a few times here, and you know, we get this question frequently in many forms. If the data isn't correct or the data is being reported slightly off, like Dylan's example of using the average hours per week, which is 40 hours instead of the full year's hours, which is probably closer to about 2,000, right? We continue to add those caveats to any of our reporting, but I want to reiterate here, and I think it's something that we hear a lot of concern about. We've said a number of times, there's no automatic transfer of information. The information entered in this next cost reporting year is not somehow going to immediately influence the 2024 rates. And so that's one of the things we've been open and transparent about in the legislative report. You will see that. And anytime we're providing numbers, whether that be for legislative requests or other requests, we do add those caveats to say, hey, this is new. There's a lot of ways to slice a pie, if you will. And sometimes we're going to take a little bit of time to bring it up. At the same time, however, we are talking about, 600 providers in a year. And I think last year's total reported revenues were north of about 800 million. And so those caveats also can be balanced on the aggregate reporting, where we see, one or two errors here and there in one given field shouldn't throw things off. But we are always analyzing how complete that data is or where there may be large gaps and noting that in our analysis as well. So I want to make sure that that's super clear. There is no your costs reported in 23 will go to the 24 legislature and all rates will immediately look like that. This is influencing the conversations that are being had, as well as providing information to the legislature to make future decisions about rates.
Yeah, I'm glad you answered that question too, because I don't know where the assumption came that a lot of the data is incorrect. As I mentioned before too, is that auditing component that we have too, is to make sure that all the costs that you are putting into the system too are correct as well. So, but yeah, I'm glad you answered that. Thank you.
I don't see any more questions coming in. I don't know, Dylan or Peter, if you have any more that you want to cover?
No, but if we did miss something, I do strongly recommend and encourage you to reach out to the cost reporting email. Everything that comes in, we answer. So please do send one that way if we miss something.
Okay, with that, I think we're handing it back to you, Colin.
All right, thank you so much for that information and for answering so many questions. Really appreciate it. Yeah, so I'm just here to wrap things up. I put this picture on this slide because I am telling myself that someday it will be summer here and we'll have fresh fruit again. Kind of, talking about going forward, and first of all, thank you for joining us at this first meeting today. I feel like it went pretty well. We got a lot of folks to join and got a lot of great questions. So thank you for joining us today, and thank you to my colleagues for presenting and getting things ready. I really do appreciate it. Just for your awareness, a recording of this webinar will be available on the DSD Training Handouts archive site. So if you want to go back and watch it, or if you'd like to share this recording with anyone who was unable to make it today, this will be posted there soon so that you can do so. And also just an encouragement to join us for future meetings where we'll be covering some additional topics. With the next meeting, we're hoping the legislature will be done by then so that we can share some DWRS changes that were made during this current legislative session. Following that, probably in the September meeting, we'll be previewing some 2024 rate changes that may be based on the laws that get passed this session. And just general trends in rates and service utilization that we're seeing as we continue to administer DWRS, and I'm sure we'll have some more cost reporting information as well. So with that, again, I just want to say thank you for joining us today. I think you heard a few times, don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions that didn't get answered during the meeting today. But at this point, I'll wrap things up and say thank you once more and have a great rest of the week. Thank you, everybody.